As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
There's no crying in baseball!
I ate his liver with some fava beans. A nice cliente.
That was totally wicked!
If I can change, then you can change. Everybody can change!
And welcome to another episode of Your Next Favorite Movie. I'm your host, Josh G. Let me start off by welcoming my co-host for these deep dives.
I'm Chad. And I'm Chris.
All right. And Chris, you have once again won our monthly poll.
Yes.
And I'll say before we get into it, just make sure you stay tuned to the end of the episode as we will reveal our poll selections for next month and also be announcing a change to the format of the show. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned to hear that. But for now, Chris, I don't think you intentionally did this, but you did something pretty awesome here because this movie actually came out March 13th, 1992. So we are celebrating the
30th anniversary. Yeah.
30th anniversary of My Cousin Vinny.
Not since Perry Mason has a lawyer been so daring. Counselor. Not since General Custer
We're being booked for murder.
has an outcome been so clear.
Try him.
They needed the best.
How long have you been practicing? Almost 6 weeks. Whoa!
What they got was
The two Utes.
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
My Cousin Vinny.
What is a Ute?
Rated R.
And you know what's kind of funny? I wasn't even thinking about that.
I didn't think you were.
No,
That's me. That's a me
I
thing.
wasn't even thinking about it. But it wasn't until I was kind of reading about it. I was like, oh, it's come out almost 30 years ago. And then, yeah.
And Chad, your Conan the Barbarian from last month was coming. It's coming up on 48 years in May. So
48
almost
years?
40 years. 40 years.
Oh, 40. I was about to say, I know the movie ain't that old.
Old enough, though,
Like,
Chad.
man,
Old enough.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's older than he says he is.
But anyways, back to My Cousin Vinny. This movie comes with a Rotten Tomato critic score of 86% and an audience score of 87%. So they're very much in line with each other. So, and
Yeah.
both good scores. Came with a budget of 11 million. Any guesses on what this movie made?
I think I remember from a while back. I think it made some around 40 or 50 million in the box office, something like that.
Chris, what's your guess?
I know it had to do pretty good, I thought, but I don't know, maybe 60. Let's say 60.
Chris got closer with 64 million. So
Oh, okay. Nice.
yeah, almost 6 times the budget. Definitely a successful little turn there for it.
Success, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell like it looked like really kind of a small movie, not anything that was huge, but it was a good story and
Right.
great performances.
I think all their budget went into making the courtroom set.
Probably, yeah.
Possibly.
It was a really nice set.
Yeah.
Could be. All right. So we get Joe Pesci as Vinny Gambini, Marissa Tomei in an Oscar-winning role as Mona Lisa Vito.
Miss Vito.
I had to say, Josh, you sound kind of funny there because at first I thought you were like, we got Q Pesci. I wasn't sure if like Josh was getting ready to yawn and he was trying to keep it or something like.
Ralph Macchio is Bill Gambini, Mitchell Whitfield as his friend Stan, and of course I had to put Fred Gwynn as the judge. I don't actually know the judge's name. I just listed him as judge the whole time.
Oh, it started with an H. Was it Holler? Judge Holler, right?
Holler, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This movie was directed by Jonathan Lynn, who directed Clue, Nuns on the Run. I didn't write down anything else. I know there was some more stuff.
And I learned that he has a law degree
Yes.
too, the
Yes, he does.
director.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and the movie often gets praised a lot for its legal court proceedings
Yep.
and stuff. Yeah.
And it's actually shown in law schools.
Yeah, they actually show it in law schools.
Yeah, and I'll give a plug to another podcast. The Screen Draft podcast recently did a movies basically in courtrooms, and
Nice.
I can definitely tell you My Cousin Vinny gets brought up there. And one of the drafters was actually Larry Werner, who us horror fans know as Shelley from Friday the 13th Part 3. So he's on there.
Oh,
so
cool. Okay.
definitely go check that out. All right. So
Yeah, I
let's
know,
get,
It's just a picture.
I know
show.
Jonathan Lynn, he insisted that a lot of the legal talk and a lot of the procedure was based on reality. So, and actually I found out too, there's a part where oh my god, the guy who was the defense attorney in the movie, I forget his name now.
No, but I know it was Trotter.
That's
Trotter,
Mr.
yeah.
Trotter. He was examining, that one witness, the automotive witness, and there's a part of their conversation that they actually took from real life court talk that happened, an exchange that happened. It was particularly the part like where he was asking about, what kind of machine do you really have in order to determine this?
Packard flame analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, is that thing turbocharged? And then he's like, only on the floor models.
Only on
That
the-
was real life banter that happened in a real court case. So they
Oh, wow.
actually used
Okay.
that. Yeah.
My favorite part of that whole examination, he's like, and what were your conclusions? He's like, they were identical. He's like, identical. I just love the way that actor like does his emphasis on
Me and
the-
Chad, oh my god, we will say that a lot. That's one of those quotes that we will say to each other all
It's
the
just
time.
so stupid, but it's memorable because it's just
Yeah.
funny the way he does it.
Okay. Well, so
Anyway, we'll get there.
you
eventually.
guys grew up watching this movie because I remember
Yeah.
you guys having this on VHS when we were little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My dad
Yeah.
was a big fan of it, and then he kind of turned my brother and I onto it when we were kids.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I think they may have like rented it at first because it took forever for movies to come out on VHS back in the day, but you could go and rent them for the longest time. And so I think when this movie was still pretty popular there and it's already come out now on for rental VHS and all that stuff, I think he rented it and we saw, gosh, one night as a family and we were just all laughing our asses off on it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember
It
you
was
guys.
good as a kid, and it's still great now.
Yeah.
It's even better now.
Yeah.
of
This
those,
was
like,
my
movies
first
that-
time watching this. I'd never seen this.
Really?
No way.
Oh,
This
man.
was your first time?
I'd never seen this.
Josh,
Oh,
the
man.
listeners are going to crucify you for this.
No, I think that
It is amazing.
It's amazing. It's a great movie.
It's amazing how Josh has missed out on so many of these movies that I
I'm
keep
surprised
hearing him
you've
going like,
gone
this is the
this
first
long
time I'm
without-
seeing it. I'm like, Josh, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, I'm surprised you've gone this long without watching it.
Well, Chris, luckily I can
Wow.
blame you because we've known each other since this movie came out. So
Well, you would think he would have saw it with us at some point, even on DVD or
Oh, definitely not on DVD. I do remember you having it on VHS, but we never
Yeah.
watched it. So
Wow, that's so surprising.
let's get into it. We start off. We see these two guys driving a convertible, and we notice they have New York license plate, and they're crossing the line into Alabama. We get a shot of the back seat of the car, showing that they have a college handbook. So we know these must be some college kids. And then as they're going down the road, they get behind a log truck, and I was like, "Oh, these guys must have seen Final Destination 2 a little early, because they went ahead and got around quick."
They
They
did.
were-
Mhm.
They were like,
I don't
"Oh,
blame
I'm
them.
not
I don't trust being behind those things. either.
No.
Mm-mm.
All right, so then we go. They're stopping off at the convenience store. They need some gas. They want to stock up on some snacks. They're,
Yep,
they're,
it's
they're
The sack of suds.
sack of suds. That's right.
Sack of Suds, which is a real place in Georgia where they filmed this, and I think it's
Ah.
like still around.
Actually, I think it's not now.
Oh, it's
They're
not
not.
now.
I don't think it is. I think
Somebody from Georgia comment below.
oh crap. I have to look
And
again.
let us
I have to
know.
check my trivia.
Settle this debate.
Yeah, okay. Because
Because
I thought
there was some of the other locations that are not around now, but Josh may be right. Maybe the Sack of Suds is what's still around, but I think the motel that they were in is
right.
no longer there. And they filmed in Georgia instead of
Instead
really
of
in
Alabama.
Alabama. Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely filmed in Georgia. I definitely saw that.
And of course, we know these two guys are Ralph Macchio and I forget the actor who plays Stan Rothenstein, not Rothenstein. Because remember
Yeah.
what happens later on in the
Rothenstein,
movie.
Yes.
And actually, what I found out while I was doing some trivia is that the Rothenstein name comes up again in another Joe Pesci movie, I think, Casino, because
Oh,
De
okay.
Niro, I think his character's name was Rothenstein.
We see them, you can tell they're college kids because they're trying to buy as cheap as they can. They're buying like
yes,
a whole bunch of tuna, which of course comes into big play because
which kind of makes me worried for them with some of the stuff that like, I'm sitting there going, no, don't. One, I think was it Ralph Macchio that was also getting the hot dog, and I'm like, don't get the gas station hot dog.
Gas station hot dogs.
Don't go with the gas station tuna. Nope. Just stick.
And he also
stick with the chips and the ding dongs.
And Rothstein, didn't he want the beans or whatever? And he's like, beans make you fat.
Yeah, and he's like, we'll go with the top off, or the top.
Yeah, like, we'll just put the top down.
Right. Yeah. And Chris, I looked up the Sack of Studs is still open and called that, but the three hotels are closed.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're buying the cheap stuff. They leave out. Bill steals the can of tuna.
But I will say, funny part too with that, when they were checking out, I forgot the guy filled up the slushy, but he didn't fill it all the way up. It's just not even really much of a slushy, and he's like, "All right, and then he says like, so you got like the chips, the such and such." He's like, and the slushy is all $1.76. I'm like, damn, $1.76 just for all of that. Okay. And then he's like, oh, can you fill this up? You know, it sounds like something that, I don't know, a Karen would probably say that.
A Karen?
Yeah. You fill it all the way to the top, please. But granted, in his situation, I totally understand because it wasn't even barely near the top.
Yeah, I was like, he had only filled it like halfway. Like that was pretty shady, to be fair. I'm like, asshole. Fill up my
his Karen hat on.
Again, I don't even know if I would get the slushy either. I would just stick with the basics.
Just prepackaged stuff. Yeah, just prepackaged stuff is all you got to stick with. You want to be safe.
So
but not like the fresh stuff. Just
the hot dog thing got me worried. Yeah, I know. I couldn't help but think. I was like, ooh, he's going to get the hot dog. He's going to get sick or something.
So they leave out, and of course they're driving, and what happens? A cop pulls them over.
But they found the can though, right?
Yeah, but they found the can of tuna, right?
No, the bean, or was it the beans?
I think it was the tuna. It was a tuna can that
he's like, oh man, I forgot to pay for this.
He accidentally stole.
Yeah, I said he left out stealing the tuna. Yeah, he had put it in his pocket to hold on and forgot to pay for it. Yeah. And that's, of course, why he thinks these cops are after him over this little can of tuna. Which this would be very, very extreme because he gets out, the cop gets out and immediately pulls the gun at him, like, hands on your head. I'm like, oh my goodness.
And they're like, all that for a can of tuna?
Over a can of tuna? What? I mean, you know what? People have been shot by police for less.
Well, and then on top of that, you would sit there and think that back in that shop, that shopkeeper or whatever, he would have sat there and go, you gonna pay for that can of tuna if he actually saw it. I don't think he even cared, considering how he didn't care about the slushy.
That's true.
But what we find out in this next scene at the police station is that that guy at the convenience store was actually shot right around the time they left.
And then the weird thing is, there was no money I don't think there was any money in the drawer when they were paying for their stuff.
No, it didn't look like it.
And so whoever robbed him and shot him or whatever, they got away with like maybe like less than $5.
That sucks to think about, that guy losing his life for over $5. So we'll get Bill. He's talking to the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, so you're saying you did it? And Bill's agreeing because he thinks this whole thing is about a can of tuna. He has no idea. He hasn't learned yet that they're talking about someone being shot.
Which is kind of the fault in the police too, because you would think that they would have said something.
They have to advise them why they're arrested and everything. So, but anyway, we wouldn't have a plot. We wouldn't have a movie if this didn't happen. So,
but I could see that happening in real life too. So
true.
Right, and then he's signing these documents saying, yeah, he'll release a statement, all this, and then we cut to Stan, and he's like, I mean, yeah, he told me about it. He's like, so you were doing aiding and abetting. So you knew about this. Of course, he's thinking the tuna as well. None of them, they're not telling them what they're framing. They're not telling them what they're charging them with.
Yep, exactly.
Well, framing in this case works too.
Yeah, in a way. But then finally he's like, so you're saying you shot him? And Bill, his character's like, I shot him. Like he's questioning it, but he's saying the statement. So they're like, yeah, you shot him. I shot him.
I shot the clerk.
You're right.
I shot the clerk. So you shot the clerk. I shot the clerk.
Right. He's like, okay, he admitted it. And then it finally clicked. Oh, wait, what?
Yep.
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
That's it.
Now you make me want to see Keanu play that role. Whoa.
Yeah. All right.
I shot the clerk.
Well, I mean, just to think too, honestly, like Ralph Macchio was like 29 or 30 when this movie came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Keanu Reeves would have been young enough to play the college
To play
age.
the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So of course now we get what typically happens. You got to make those phone calls. And of course, Stan is saying, look, we need to find a great attorney. We got to get someone that can get us out of this. And Bill's like, I know what to do. I'll call my mom.
Yeah.
Way up in New
I
York
mean,
when they're in Alabama.
Mama knows best.
Yes.
Looks like Mama's wrong again.
And
Well,
Bill's
if anyone's
telling,
going to have a connection to lawyers, then it's probably going to be your parents.
Yeah.
that's true. Although I don't think that's where his mind was going when
No.
he called his mom. But he's saying that he thinks they're being set up for some reason. They don't know why. Stan's, of course, saying that he thinks they're part of the clan and they're inbred and sleeping with their sister around this town.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
And all the police are just sitting there hearing them. They stop for a second. They're like, excuse me. And he's in there, not y'all or something. Yeah, not you. Or
But then-
sorry. I think
then-
that was what he said.
yeah, but then of course we learn that there is an attorney in the family, and we get the title of the movie, My Cousin Vinny.
He's like, oh, we got who is it? My cousin Vinny. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
oh.
And then of course we get the rock and roll music.
That like 50s Billy,
Yes.
Billy
Yeah.
rockabilly type music.
And they're in their car driving too. And
Yep.
oh my God. This was such a great introduction too, because what a way to showcase these characters as like fish out of water.
Yeah.
And especially the way they were dressed, with all the leather and
The
the
black.
dark clothes and and
The sunglasses.
yeah, the sunglasses going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love where, of course, we see Joe Pesci and all stuff, but then we also see Marissa Tomei, who is Mona Lisa Vito, or Lisa, she's called in the movie.
Yeah, Lisa, yeah.
And I love when she comes out and she's got the pink camera. The one thing that's really is colorful on her at the beginning. And she's like, I wonder how their Chinese food is. I love how she just, her accent is so good. She does a great job for this movie.
So now we have met Vinny and Lisa. So it's time for us to get into our who could have
But
been
important
who.
part. Yeah, before you do that, important part to take notice. She says something about the car, because they were checking the car when they first parked in there. So she was like, you might want to check.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, the such and such. So that kind of gave you that little bit of info about Lisa that you sort of really forget until later. And you're like, oh, no wonder. And that's the great thing about this movie too, is that it'll tell you things and then it shows you things, especially with Vinny. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why when we get to there. But I thought sitting there looking at the movie and kind of analyzing a little bit more when we were watching it. And I was like, man, there's a lot of kind of like,
they sort of drop little
somewhat
bits
little
along the way.
foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, you're like, oh, now they're showing this. Yeah, it's really interesting.
All right, so let's get into who could have been who.
Oh, this is interesting too. I saw the trivia for this.
Saw some of these names.
Yep.
So Jim Belushi, I think they said he went on some radio show and said that he turned down the role of Vinny.
He regretted it.
Yeah,
he said he regrets it. But then I sit there and go, can you imagine Jim Belushi in this role? It's so weird to think about. Or any other actor for that matter.
Right. Andrew Dice Clay said it was supposed to be his role. He was going to be Vinny until The Adventures of Ford Fairlane came out and the movie tanked. And they were like, no, we're not going to go with you.
Yeah, and I can't remember if this was a part too where he was kind of canceled at the time. If I remember as well. There was something that he did in his career. I forget. That was so controversial, and he sort of got canceled back then too.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I know when I read it, they made it sound like it was because that movie he did have came out and tanked. So
yeah,
Ford Fairlane movie tanked. Apparently, Danny DeVito and John Lovitz were both considered for the role of Vinny.
Nice. Oh man, I was sitting here just all of a sudden I had the image of John Lovitz on Joe Pesci's body. just because of the jacket and the shirt. And I'm just imagining his face for a moment. But man, he just wouldn't have had the
Spitfire.
yeah, that
attitude
that Joe Pesci has, because he's not afraid to just like, yeah, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
And actually stand a chance.
Yeah.
But no offense to John Lovitz,
But he's getting his ass
but
kicked.
but it's hard to imagine him doing like, yeah, I'll kick your ass here. I just don't see that from him.
You can't pull it off, Chris.
No, I just can't see that. It's hard because like I think what was that movie that he did in the 90s, like the High School High, where they sort of parody
the
Michelle Pfeiffer
was
movie.
It called High School High?
Was it High School High? Yeah, I think
That's what it's called. I never watched it though, so I don't know.
Oh my god!
I kind of
rhinestone cowboy. But no, I totally feel you there. I can't imagine him in that sort of
and it's same like League of Their Own. I kind of imagine him in that kind of character wise too, or he would just say wisecracking things but not really do anything.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and Joe Pesci you
then,
could definitely buy because he's coming off Goodfellas after this.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And he just won the Oscar. Ooh, which by the way,
Yep.
he won the Oscar, and then he brings the Oscar to the set to show everyone. And then I'm sitting there thinking, well, that must have been some good luck on Marissa Tomei, because maybe she kind of like rubbing Buddha's belly. Maybe in this case it was.
Why did he bring it to the set though? Was it like a power move?
No, I think it was just to show people like, oh, hey, because I think everyone was happy for him
Mhm.
when he was making the movie, and he just happened to bring it to show
Okay.
everybody.
I thought he was,
because
like trying to do like a power move.
No,
No, because
I'm
the
the
ceremony
best thing on
happened
here.
while they were filming. So
I
he was
gotcha.
Yeah, because I thought about that. I was like, I wonder if Marissa Tomei took it to her next movie. Tried to give that rub to someone else. That she should have took hers to the next movie and see if that trend could continue. If you take your Oscar to the movie, someone else will win an Oscar.
Yeah, because it must have gave a little bit of power there to be like, oh, by the way, here you, because like Marissa Tomei at that time,
She
it
was
wasn't
like
like she had a
fresh
long
off of, like, a
career. She was
different
really,
world.
she was fresh off a different world. She was only there for one season when that spun off from the Cosby Show in the early 90s. So then, because she was like 27 at the time when
she
the
was
film
really
was
young,
made, and I know
yeah.
Joe Pesci was in, I think, his late 40s.
Yeah, I got that
So-
down later when they talk about a certain conversation. I have their ages.
Nice.
But back to the people. We got Lorraine Bracco declined the role of Lisa.
I can't imagine her in that one either, even though I know she was in Goodfellas.
She was in Goodfellas. She was in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And of course, the movie I watched her the most in as a kid, Radio Flyer. She was the mom.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. It's just weird because now I'm sitting there thinking, okay, Lorraine Bracco doing the scenes like, my biological clock is ticking. My niece, my sister,
daughter of my
sister, is meanwhile getting married before me. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's just hard to imagine Lorraine Bracco.
Yeah,
Bracco
hers would
doing
always
that.
be a serious delivery, and I don't think you'd have any of that comedic
Yeah.
timing with her for it. All right, Debbie Mazzar was considered for the
Okay,
role.
I could probably see that a little bit. But I think I don't know, she was young too. She was like in her, I think maybe early 30s
Not
at the
gonna guess.
time. But she was always an actress that had interesting eyes, kind of like a Meg
Yep.
Foster thing with her eyes of sorts. But she could pull up that New York accent really well too. So I don't know. But again, Marissa Tomei just kind of took it out of the ballpark. So
I mean,
don't know.
obviously she won the Oscar for it, so obviously she did
Yeah.
exactly what was needed. So I don't think you can recast her on this. So
I don't think
it becomes
so
a
either.
lesser movie. And
Should
then
cast Coco Peru in this role. 'Cause she's from the Bronx. She could pull off that accent.
apparently, I don't know. Like I said, some of these I never know how true they are. Apparently, Will Smith auditioned for the role of Stan as the friend. I mean, it would
Which
have been
that would have been weird too. Yeah, I heard that one. Now I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, so we got the Fresh Prince as Stan. That would have been,
Yeah.
but I don't know if him and Ralph Macchio would have had that kind of chemistry. And the role is a little bit subdued for
It is, yeah,
the,
for what he was doing
the
at the
charisma
time.
that Will Smith
Yeah,
has. So
yeah.
And then our last one is Christopher Lloyd being considered for the role of Judge Holler.
Well,
I
I
mean, I
bet
can
he
see that.
probably would have done a good job.
Mhm.
However, the great thing about Fred Gwynn's casting is that because he was 6'5" in real life, it
was
made
very
him that
imposing.
imposing
Mhm.
and kind of you would be intimidated. He had that intimidation factor too as this character. I don't know if Christopher Lloyd would have been able to, maybe, but I don't know. There's just something about the way, like even Fred Grant, his voice.
Yeah, he has that very deep,
you know,
baritone.
and he was able to pull off that kind of Southern accent. Really, like you just would not want to piss him off. I would be afraid of pissing him off. So,
I mean, he's Herman Munster. I mean, of course you would.
Yeah. It's. I mean, Christopher Lloyd was a good consideration, but Fred Gwynn, I think, was.
Yeah.
They made the perfect choice for that one.
I agree. All right, so now I have it back like when you said when they're getting there and she gets out, and of course he's telling her that she sticks out and he fits in because he wears cowboy boots. So I'm like, it takes a little bit more than that to fit in with this crowd, but okay.
And man, what was it? She's like, and oh man, what did she say to him? Like, and who the fuck do you think you are? Or something like that.
Something, yeah.
And I just thought like one of the things that's interesting in this movie is the way that sometimes they talk to each other, which seems sometimes a little harsh. I was in there going, man, I couldn't sit there
It's
and
abrasive, y'all.
say that to my part. It's a little hard going there.
and Chris, I have what you're talking about. The cop is telling them that they have mud in their tires. It's something that happens down there.
That's right.
And Vinny turns and asks Lisa if she's ever heard of that, because you can tell she knows everything about cars, which they sprinkle it not just here, they sprinkle it throughout the movie about her knowledge of cars.
There's also the plumbing part in the hotel.
The plumbing part in the hotel, yeah.
And the cop just laughs and walk off because how could a woman possibly know about cars?
Yeah.
Then we cut to
much.
Especially in Alabama, unfortunately. Sorry, but I mean, it happens
in a small
here too.
town like them, probably. Yeah.
It happens where I'm at too, so I can't even say anything. So we get Bill and Stan. They're getting their own cell, so at least they're getting to be together. Of course, Stan's like, yeah, but what if they put someone else in here? I don't want to be Bubba's sex slave.
Oh yeah. I think that's the funny part, is that they both are going to jail here. They're going into this cell, and the one thing he's worried about is being raped.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're in a small town. I would be more concerned about, like, they think I killed somebody. I need to convince them that I didn't kill somebody. I don't know. I just feel like, don't worry about that. That ain't.
You're not
considering where
Shawshank,
you're
sir.
at. Like, it doesn't look like that's probably going to happen for you. It's a small, really small town you're in.
But
You're probably the biggest killer that they've ever had right now. Even though
It's
technically
the most
he's not a
exciting
killer.
thing that's happened there since the town's founded.
Probably.
Yeah, their prison's probably full of a bunch of dads who don't pay child support and shit like that.
Exactly.
Or abuse their wife, bunch
Or-
of domestic violence people.
Yep.
Yeah. Or Bubba Ray, who goes and steals people's gas to drink it or something.
Well, that's who he's worried about, Chris Bubba.
Bubba Ray, yeah.
Oh, but this next scene, oh my God, I had to pause this. I was laughing so damn hard at this next scene. So Bill is up there sleeping when Vinny comes, because Stan's up and he's worried. And Vinny's talking, and he's saying shit like, look, man, you're going to get fucked one way or the other. Doesn't matter. And he's like, look, you need to be grateful. It's your ass, not mine. So of
He's
course,
like, you should be on your knees.
You should be on your knees.
I got that. You should be down on your fucking knees. Yeah. And Stan's like standing. Obviously he's thinking it's this Bubba character that's coming to play. He's like, there ain't no way in hell I'm jerking you off. It's like, what the
Look, it's either me or them. You're getting fucked one way or the other. Hey. Lighten up, okay? Don't worry, I'm gonna help you.
Gee, thanks.
Excuse me, but I think a modicum of gratitude would not be out of line here.
You think I should be grateful?
Yeah, I mean, it's your ass, not mine. I think you should be grateful. I think you should be down on your fucking knees. I did not come down here just to get jerked off, you know.
No. I'm not jerking you off. I'm not doing anything.
This scene had some great, I had to pause. I
Yeah.
was laughing so damn hard during this.
This
scene.
is the scene I remember most when I was a kid, and some respect when watching it with Dad, because Dad would just
Yeah.
Yes,
laugh
I could
so
see-
hard with this one.
I could see. Did your dad let out one of his famous? God damn! He was
Probably.
He
I
would
can't.
crack me
I
up
cannot
during
remember. I just
some
remember him
movies.
definitely laughing with like each line, because the great thing about this part is how they kind of volleyed off of each other. With,
Right.
just the timing was so good, and the way that the words were so manipulated. One character's thinking one thing, the other character is thinking another.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and then of course, finally, Bill wakes up. Vinny goes and turns like, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm not talking to you. And wakes up Bill, and of course, he's like, "Hey, it's Vinny." And Stan realizes the mistake he's made here.
Oh my God, Stan is like one of those friends that in that situation you want to sit there and go, "Leave me alone," because like your worrisome thing is going to get on my nerves.
Because then we get Bill and Stan talking to Vinny about the cases, and he's like, "Well, I've never taken a case to court. I've actually only been practicing about 6 weeks." He's like, "Wait a minute, I thought you graduated law school 6 years ago." And he's like, "Well, yeah, but I just now passed the bar exam. Took him 6 tries to pass the damn bar exam."
It's like, well, third time's the charm. He's like, well, in my case, six times was the charm.
Which in my mind, I didn't look this up, but I'm like, is there a limit to how many times you can take this? Because the bar exam is a pretty crucial thing. I would think there's a limit. Like if you can't pass in this many times, you're not cut out to be a lawyer.
I don't know. It probably not really a cap off, but I bet you there's probably like you can take it. You could probably take it another time at a certain time.
Oh, you have to wait.
You know what I mean? You have to a waiting period. In
Oh, I
between.
think that's the whole point of the 6 years versus 6 times.
Yeah,
Is he took it once per year. I think he had to wait a year.
If you're a lawyer, comment below.
And what's your LSAT score?
And tell us your LSAT score.
Oh, and then we cut to a scene. Vinny's talking to the judge because he needs to be allowed to be an out-of-state attorney because he's obviously from New York. He's not from Alabama. And they got to go thing. And of course, he's like, judge, like, how long you been practicing? He's like, I've been practicing 16 years. I've won lots of murder cases. It says, I won some, I lose some.
Oh my God, that was intimidating too, the way the judge was asking him these questions. Yeah.
And then it just kind of shows you, his character. He's really good at thinking on the fly and being good on his toes. I would flounder. I'd be
right. Yeah. And then didn't he hand Vinny like this big old
the law book,
like the Alabama.
It's coming. I'm getting there. Yeah, because first Vinny tells him, he's like, "Give me an example of a case of yours." And he's like, "Well, the son of Sam." He's like, "You represented that guy?" He's like, "No. I represented the first guy they blamed before they got the guy." And judge lets him know, "Look, I do everything by the book, and I'm not patient when it comes to the law," which we do find out.
Yeah.
But then this is where he gives him the Alabama law book and tells him he better know him when he enters his courtroom. And I was reading something like the Alabama law book is the biggest law book in the United States. Like there's no way.
Their constitution is the biggest constitution in the U.S.
Bigger than the U.S. Constitution.
It's right there next to the U.S. Constitution in terms of words that are. Wow. It's like over 3
million words. Or
something. Oh my God, I forget. It was like over. Oh man, it was like 33. Was it like 3,300 or something? Like I don't know.
No. I got it. I got
worse than that. Okay.
This is how big of a difference it is. The Alabama Constitution is over 300,000 words. The U.S. Constitution is 4,000 words. That's
that's right. Of course,
Jesus, what the fuck are they doing down there?
That is crazy.
That's why if you have to travel through Alabama, don't get in trouble.
Don't get in trouble.
Be a good boy, be a good girl, whatever. Just get through it and get out.
So then, of course, we get late night at the hotel. Vinny's trying to study this book. Lisa wants to help, and he's telling her no, he's got it. He doesn't need her help. And then we cut to them in bed. And what are they doing? They're getting woken up by this steam whistle going off at 5:30 in the morning.
That thing was loud. Yeah. One thing I got to give credit for with this movie too is the sound design, because they did a great job with making a lot of the noises very disturbed. Like, it disturbed his peace a lot, because that's one thing is, in this movie's he never gets an ounce of peace.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And he asked the hotel clerk about it. He's like, "Does this happen every day?" And he's like, "Yep, every morning at 5:30, we got to wake the town up." I was like, "Oh, hell no. Not everybody." I know. 5:30 in the morning. Jesus Christ. I would not like that. So then they go to this little local diner, and boy, you could tell this small town. All their
this is
menu is
great.
breakfast, lunch, dinner.
I love that menu. I was like, why have a menu? And all I had was just those 3 things.
And he's like,
But
I guess I'll have breakfast.
what I loved about it is like it doesn't show anything at first. You just see them looking at the menu and like, so what do you want? What do you think? I was just like, breakfast? And I'm like, okay, breakfast. And then you get the view of the menu.
It's the 3.
It's just the 3 items.
And I love it because the guy like puts this like huge scoop of lard on the griddle, and he's like, "Are y'all aware of the cholesterol problem in the country?"
Yeah.
Yeah, because we learned that the breakfast is just bacon, eggs, and grits. And of course, Vinny's never heard of grits, and he asks him what grits are, and he tells him they're yeah, what's a grit? And he tells them they're made. I forgot exactly. They're made of corn.
What was it, Chad?
What is a grit, anyways?
It's made out of corn. Them hominy grits.
Hominy. How do you cook it?
Well, you simmer it in water for 15 or 20 minutes. Put it on the plate and add butter.
So, you gonna eat it or not?
But it's important piece here because he tells him you got to put it on the stove for 15 to 20 minutes to get it to cook.
Yeah.
That information comes in very handy later on in the movie. And then, of course, Lisa's over here with her pink camera taking pictures of him as he's eating grits for the first time.
He takes his first bite.
Well, she's like, it's like, do you want a bite? She's like, you go first.
You go first.
And then we get our first scene. Vinny and Lisa are walking in the courtroom. And where does Vinny do? He sits on the damn table as if that's where he's supposed to sit.
Swinging his legs. Yeah.
Yeah,
He looks like a little kid sitting there on the table.
He's got like that empty briefcase. Well, it's not even a briefcase. It's like a little satchel thing.
Yeah.
And he just pops on the.
And I like when Mr. Trotter comes in, the defense attorney. He's like,
attorney or the prosecutor.
He's in there going, "Where's your attorney?"
Yeah.
Not even. He's like, "I'm the attorney," and he's like, "Oh," and then he's something Trotter, Yeah.
Jim Trotter, yeah.
Jim Trotter the third, I think.
Oh,
I think you're right.
He was a third. Yeah, and he's like, and he's in there like Vinny Gambini, the first.
And of course, because you can't tell
Gambini,
he's the lawyer because he comes in, he's wearing his leather jacket, he's wearing his jeans, he is not dressed. Another attorney comes in with a suit, he's got his briefcase, he just looks much more prepared, much more professional for a courtroom.
He starts unpacking his briefcase and everything, and like Vinny like starts to feel a little insecure, so he starts like
he's like, "Oh wait, do I got a pad? I got a pad. Okay, I got a pad and pencil. That'll work."
Oh my goodness! And then of course, Bill and Stan come in. And then the judge comes in. Of course, he's ripping Vinny on this. He's like, "How dare you come in? You're insulting me. You're insulting the integrity of the court. You better wear a suit next time you come into my court."
But you know what?
What he said, he's like, "You better wear." There's like the jacket you wear better be made of some kind of cloth.
Yes, yes, he did. Because you know what? This is what made his character so intimidating. It's like he kind of reminded me of like, if anyone's ever had the mean grandma that would tell you something, but she's not going to tell you everything up front. She's going to kind of rip you from the start and then to an end. So it's like he's sitting there going, "What are you wearing?
What are you wearing?"
He's like, what? Clothes?" And he's like, "No. What are you wearing in my courtroom?" You know, that kind of thing. He's like, jacket. You know. And he's like, he's in there going like, and then he just gets deeper with it, which you know, where he's sitting there and going, "Well, I expect you to show up to my court lawyerly, and whatever you wear better be made of some kind of cloth." And then he's in there going, "So how does your clients plead?" And that's where that's where it gets deeper. And he's like, "Well," he's like, "Your Honor," he's like, trying to tell them it's a miscommunication. He's like, "It's a simple yes or no." He's like, "Now the next words that come out of your mouth better be guilty or not guilty.
Or I'm holding you in contempt of court."
He's like, "Do you understand?" He's like, I
think I get it.
I get it.
And it's like the bad teenager that's going to back talk, and then he's in there going, "Again, break down with the communication." Oh my God, it's so good. It's just like a good parenting moment for Vinny, I think, that he needed, but of course he gets held into contempt. So
he does get held into contempt.
I like what he said. It was like, he's like, You were serious about that?
What was it he said though to him? And he was like, "You were serious about what was it?"
I know it was about the clothes. No.
Oh, that was in the second time he came in because he was wearing the jacket again.
No,
The
but I
second time
think
he came in
he
the
said
courtroom.
something because he wasn't expecting to be going to jail.
Oh yeah, I don't
and that
remember.
first day, and he's like,
Right.
Josh will
about
catch
that?
us up. Josh
Yeah.
got notes.
I think it was because of the wording. Like he didn't do the guilty or not guilty thing maybe at first. And he's like,
Yeah, that's what it
"Okay,
was. He
you're in
said
contempt."
he said the next words out of your mouth better be guilty or not guilty, or I'm holding you in contempt of court. And then of course he goes, "Yeah, I think I get it." And he's like, "Okay, you're in contempt of court."
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, because this is the most. This isn't even the arguments. This isn't open arguments. This is just
It's just
whether
a
you plead
plea
guilty or
entry.
not guilty
Yeah.
to figure out which way you're going. Because if you plead guilty, the thing wraps up pretty easy.
Yeah.
Plead
He's
not
like,
guilty,
"It
you
sounds
got to
like
go
you're
to
wanting to dismiss
You gotta
this
go to a
whole
pre-trial,
thing."
yeah.
He's like, "You're wanting to dismiss this whole thing, but that's not how it works." This was it was a good scene. I love that. He's like, "You
Oh, it
serious
is.
about that?"
But
This
yeah,
is
he
why
put-
Fred Gwynn was so perfect for this role.
I agree. He sets Bill and Stan's bail at like I think $200,000, and then he holds Vinny in contempt and sets it at $200. Of course, he tells Lisa to come get him. So then, of course, we get the scene of her picking him up, and what she does, he's coming out, takes a picture of him.
Takes a picture. She's like, basically, she's kind of going,
I don't think you know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing in there.
He's like, "I know what I was doing." She's like, "Well, it just didn't seem like you knew what you were doing in there, Vinny."
And I was like, "Well, I was hoping you'd be more supporting, stand by your man, that kind of thing." It's like, "Oh, is that what you want? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, Vinny,
Vinny,
you were
you're
great.
And he
You showed that
tells her
judge
that
what- you
he
showed
tells her-
that judge.
Yeah, he tells her that he learns by doing, not by studying. And I'm like, that's not the way to do court. You have to know what the hell you're doing to go in there.
Because she had asked him too, like, well, have you ever seen a case before and all that stuff? Because it was, I think, required or somewhat required, right? That they had to watch, when he was in law school, they had to see such amount of hours of court.
Hell, when
And
I
he
went
was
to
like,
school for
he couldn't do
paralegal, I
it.
had to go watch court. So
Yeah, and then
And then they also like hold mock trials in law school and stuff too.
yeah,
So.
and he was just saying like he couldn't do it because he had to work and pay for school, and I forget, but he was saying like all those different things that he
Right.
couldn't go and actual see a real trial.
but while they're arguing, we learn that Lisa was playing a game of pool with somebody for money. And of course, they thought they were going to get one over on her. She won, and they decided not to pay. So Vinny and Lisa, this is where you're talking about Vinny coming in, because I don't know if John Lovitz could pull this stuff off, but
Exactly.
Vinny and Lisa go to the bar. And of course, the first thing we get of this guy, he goes, sits down, he grabs a chicken leg and just puts the whole chicken
Oh,
leg in his
yeah.
mouth and just pulls all the chicken off. I was like,
Well, here's the thing. I can't say that was bad because I've done that before too with the small chicken leg and
Little,
stuff. Yeah, like one of those, like the chicken wings,
Those
there we go.
drumsticks, yeah,
Yeah,
little-
little drumsticks. Yep,
nope, not me. Mm-mm.
it's so good though.
I don't eat fried chicken like that, so I don't have to worry about
I like
it.
when they first walked in too, by the way, because again, fish out of the water. So
Yeah.
they show up with the sunglasses on, and everyone just pauses, including the music. It stops. So I was like, oh, so they got the power to stop the music. Stop
Yeah,
the
yeah.
box.
There you go. So Vinny goes to this guy. He's called JT, and he's like, "Look, she won the game fair and square. We won our $200." And he's like, "You know what? How about I kick your ass?" He said,
Oh,
"Well, how
I
about?"
loved how you did this. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
go ahead. Then go ahead.
Yeah, wasn't there a moment? No, we didn't see that yet. Like where the two boys were playing basketball in the court yet. That hasn't come up yet, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I might have.
Okay.
I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, that's next.
That's okay.
Next. Okay.
I have to remember that because there's a reason why I want to bring that up. But yeah, keep
Okay.
going.
Yeah, he offers to kick his ass. He's like, "How about you give the $200 and then I'll kick your ass. We'll fight and then I'll take the damn money from you." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, show me the $200." He's like, "Well, I don't have it, but I can get it." and that becomes a thing of him showing the money to prove he can damn get the two. It's more about proving that he has $200.
Yeah. Well,
than
and
it is
this
about
scene was
you.
also pivotal because what you're seeing is really what Vinny can do in terms of arguing for the
Yeah.
situation that he's
Right.
in. So I like where he's in. He's like, $200 or an ass kicking. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think I probably deserve an ass kicking, but you know what? I'd rather go with the $200. But I like how he was just kind of making this deal, and this guy's just sitting there thinking like, what the fuck? This guy's not throwing a punch or anything. He's confusing my brain.
Yeah, right. All right, Chris, here we go. Next scene is Bill and Stan out on the basketball court. So what do you want to bring up?
Oh yeah, so we see where in this instance we see Stan being the warrior as he is.
Yep.
And just not sure that Vinny can handle it. But meanwhile, you have Bill telling him that, well, my family's known for arguing. He's like, it's not like your family, like the Gambinis really argue. And so what was important about this is like he's telling you like also what we saw previously with what Vinny can do and what Vinny does in the next scene, which I kind of forget right off the top of my head, because we see where Vinny is able, he's capable, he's argue, like he'll bring up anything and everything in order to show a different side to a situation to somebody that they just wouldn't expect, and it falls on his side, so he's capable of it. And we start seeing like these things as they go along where the characters will say, well, Vinny's capable of doing this. And also again with Lisa, we find something else that happens, the little drops of things of her knowledge that comes in handy. So that's one thing I like about this movie, is it gives you a lot of foreshadowing about these characters, but you kind of forget it as the movie is going along because you're so caught up with the comedic stuff of what's going on and some of the performances, and you're not really thinking of the clues and the hints and the foreshadowing that they're giving you.
Yeah, I don't know. I was picking up on Lisa's stuff the whole time. All the stuff there,
and that makes sense.
Yeah,
but I think for a lot of viewers, they weren't expecting that at first.
Okay, and maybe that's true.
Because her big thing was like she kept arguing about wanting to be married, which
right.
You see that a lot of in the movie, and she wanted to be able to help him, but it's not really, I think, towards the end where you sit there and put the clues together that you're like, oh yeah, she does know a lot more than what we thought.
Which, yeah, and we get another instance of that in this next scene because Vinny's like hearing this water dripping. And he's like, did you turn it off? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, are you sure you turned it right? And I didn't write it all down, but she goes, well, for that particular faucet, you got to do a certain torque right at this to get this much to make sure it's turned off all the way. And that is dead on balls accurate. I love that term. Dead on balls accurate.
And she's like, what is she? She like rips that page out.
She does.
Like, yep. This is your proof of whatever.
And she also said that she used like a wrench that physicists and astronauts use or something like that. That's been calibrated. Yeah.
And of course, all this technical talk it looks like it turns Vinny on, which I can see that. I can see that being the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's probably the big passion of their relationship, is like they can argue with each other and pretty hard.
Right.
But then that's also what.
Well, the thing is, too, she's probably like the only person that can ever like prove Vinny wrong.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You definitely see that in the end in the courtroom.
Attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, which he kind of drove me up the wall a little bit sometime, where he's like, I don't want you reading that book. I don't need your help doing it. I'm like, boy, come on now. He knows her well. And it's like, this is your fiance. She's smart. If she's willing to, look up some information and help you out, then let her do it.
Especially read that damn Alabama law book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, because there's that one scene where he comes back from hanging out with Mr. Trotter, and then she's like halfway through the book.
Oh, we get another quick thing of Vinny waking up from that damn steam whistle again. He hasn't changed hotels yet, but that's coming.
Oh wait, was it the steam whistle or was that the train this time?
No, we're not to the train yet.
Not that. Okay.
Yeah, the train's later. And then we get another scene in the courtroom, and this Mrs. Riley, who apparently saw Bill and Stan as the people who peeled off in this other car. Because when the other car pulled out, they left tire marks because they gunned it and left their tire marks screeching. And that's all. I don't think they mentioned it yet, where they matched the tire marks to their car yet. I think that comes in there in a little bit.
Yeah, that comes later.
Yeah,
because the automotive guy was like that surprise thing that the defense that Mr. Trotter brings in.
Yeah. And then we get Mr. Riley, and then we get a different witness saying that he heard gunshots and then saw them peel off the road.
Yeah, there was Mr. Tipton, which is the Grits guy, I think.
Okay, and then there was
guy. Yeah.
But I forget the other guy. The other guy with the window thing. The kind of the country bumpkin guy.
Bumpkin guy with the dirty windows.
I forget his name, right? But I remember the first guy. I remember the grit guy is Mr. Tipton.
Okay, yeah, I can't remember their name, but they're basically giving
the stutter guy did it for me.
Huh?
The stutter guy that shows up later.
Oh yeah, he's like public defender.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Played by the great Austin Pendleton. Gotta love that guy.
Who was apparently a real life stutterer, which I did not know.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't either. And then of course
According
we get
to
this
trivia.
Okay.
The more you know, shooting star, peacock.
There you go.
Yes.
And then the sheriff reads the statement of Bill saying, "I shot the clerk," when he was questioning it, but he took it down as his statement.
I asked him once again, and he said, "I shot the clerk."
It's like during that conversation, you not hear that he was
and like throughout all of this, like Vinny is not.
Oh yeah,
he's not rebutting any of the things.
Well, not only that, they've talked to all the witnesses, and they're like, "Do you want to at least cross-examine?" He's like, "No."
Yeah, no.
I'm like, "Oh no, jeez."
And that's what really starts putting doubt in
Stands.
the boys, in the minds of the boys, because they're like, "You're not saying anything. You're not defending us." Blah blah blah. So yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I'll say, and then judge says that the trial is going to begin the following Monday, which is, I guess, in a small town that could be true. Normally, it's going to take a while before you actually get the trial going. But
like the timeline of this movie is crazy, because I'm like,
well,
how long? Because I mean, normally you have to have months at least to build a case and to get all the proper
all the time for discovery and all
True.
that stuff.
And it just kind of feels like this all happens in the span of like a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
you know what? At the same token, I'm not totally surprised, because I also can see something like that in real life, and especially if you're in a really small town that this town is, like there's not a whole lot. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of pop, and obviously there's not. I mean, I didn't think there was a lot of people in their prison as well either, other than like just that group of guys that was out there playing basketball as well. That was really it. So maybe things were able to move actually a little bit faster, because it sounded like that defense attorney pretty much already had his stuff in hand that can convict these guys.
Yeah, and if Vinny knew what he was doing, he would be able to file a motion to hold off later to give him time to build his case. But
look at that
he didn't know
legal degree shit coming out of Josh.
That's true.
That's sexy, Josh.
Hashtag sexy Josh.
And Chris,
or should we say smexy Josh?
No, I don't think so. Chris, here was your part where he wants, and then this is where the judge once again asks Vinny, he's like, "Wait a minute, what are you wearing in my court?" And he holds him in contempt of court again.
And that's when he's like, "You serious about
That's
that?"
right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here.
It was the second time, because he showed up the second time in the same
clothes on. Yeah.
Then we get Bill and Stan are both starting to question Vinny at this point. You're right. They're like, are you sure you know what you're doing here? You didn't even say it. You didn't cross-examine. You didn't say anything.
Yeah, especially like Stan was getting pretty pissy.
Stan's
like, questions. But yeah. I think Vinny brought up a good point. He's like, "Yo, a good old boy was shot."
Yeah.
He's like, "They ain't going to hear.
There's no way that
this is not going to go to trial." Because anything he would have said then at that point, they were not going to listen to it.
That's true. Lisa bails him out again, and still questioning whether he knows what he's doing. And he once again is like, I want your support. Just support me. Just support me. And of course, we cut to the hotel. Yeah.
And she's meanwhile like, "Yo, give me something to do. I want to help.
Right.
Otherwise I'm going to be sitting here and going, yo, baby time."
So we get that night, Vinny's reading the law book. Yeah. And he's starting to worry how it's going to go. And he ends up going to bed at 3 a.m. And of course, once he get woken up by this time, nope, not the train yet, Chris. These are the pigs squealing out next door.
Oh yeah, because it's the slaughterhouse
next door.
Yeah.
Literally the motel next to the slaughterhouse. God, that's awful.
That's
Can you imagine the
awful.
smell?
The screams and
you would have thought they would have smelled something when they first got there.
Oh, and then we get the next scene. Stan he says he wants to meet with a public defender, and it's John Gibbons, which is played by Austin Pendleton, which you talked about him being the stutterer. He's been in. It's weird. I can't think of anything.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's
And
one
the
of those
only
faces and actors that you see everywhere, but he never really. He was always like maybe the supporting character or the.
Oh yeah, like
You know.
as much stuff as I've seen him in, the only thing that's popping in my mind immediately is Christmas with the Cranks. He keeps showing up, and they don't know who he is, but he knows everybody at the party. I can't remember.
That's a movie I haven't seen in a long time, but I just remember. I remember seeing it in the theaters once, and I was like, you know what? I did not enjoy this one very much. But anyway, that's a different.
Didn't we all go see Christmas with the Cranks?
I think we did.
I saw it in theaters, but
yeah.
Oh, it's one of those that most people don't like and I love. So I'm the minority on that movie.
I think I'd probably enjoy it now, but back then I was like, man, I was hoping for more comedy. Yeah. Or so, I remember walking out going, just a little bit more. Anyway. So now it's been forever since I've seen it though.
So now Bill meets with Vinny and he's telling him, you know what? I'm going to be like Stan. I'm going with the public defender too. And Vinny tells him that he can win the case. He compares it to building a house brick by brick. You got to build up one brick on top.
He does a great job with it though. He makes a lot of sense.
He does, and he sells Bill, and Bill says, "Okay, I'll give you a chance."
And I think this is the scene too, where referring back to that scene where Bill was trying to tell Stan that, you know, Vinny's a good arguer, our family's good arguer, like this is what we're good at, and this was a example of all of a sudden showing again, but in a big way, with Vinny convincing him that no, I can do this. Give me time.
Right.
I'm gonna get there. We'll make it.
Yeah, because then Stan questions his decision, and Bill tells him about the time when he was younger and they had a magician come and Vinny caught him at every trick he was trying to do. Like, no, you did this. No, you were doing this. So he knows that he pays attention and can actually come up with stuff.
Yep, he pays attention to detail.
Yes. All right, then we get Vinny meeting up with JT for the fight and the money again. And JT says, yeah, here's the money. And Vinny says,
he's like, hey, look what I got. And he's like, and then that's also, like you just brought up, Josh, the tricks, the magician.
Right.
Now we get the example of exactly what he did with the magician.
Right.
In this scene. He's like, is that
like,
really
$200?
$200?
Show it to me.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because he says
out of 20 with a bunch of ones wrapped.
Yep. Right. Which it's funny he did that because it reminded me of, I don't know if you ever saw Seinfeld or not, but you know the character of Kramer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling Jerry one time, he said, Jerry, what you do to show you're a big shot, you put a bunch of ones and put your big bills on top. But he showed him a $5 bill on top. I was like, oh, that's a big shot.
Well, who knows? Maybe that's what the JT did. Although he just did obviously the 20, because JT was just like, no.
yeah, he wouldn't show him. It was not $200.
That's $200. He's like, why don't you fan out and show it to me? And
all right.
Like,
all right, Chris, here's your scene. Vinny and Lisa are sleeping, and here comes this train rolling through at 5 a.m. And
that was funny too. Yeah.
He goes down and asks the person, does this come in at 5 a.m. every morning? He was like, no, not at 5 a.m.
Yep.
It just leaves it at that. Doesn't say anything else. That's unusual.
And I think too, what's funny was like, as that train was coming, that's where Lisa, she just starts laughing. I was like, well, that's just mean. You know, your boyfriend can't sleep through this.
Right.
It's like, he hasn't been able to sleep in the last couple of nights.
Exactly. Then we get a scene. Vinny's talking to Trotter and he's asking him, how you feel about the case? He's like, well, I mean, I'd like to have the murder weapon, but other than that, I feel like I got a pretty good case.
Yep. Which that's important too.
Yeah. Murder weapon's important. And he talks about, they end up going hunting together. You know, Lisa says she's not happy. He's going to shoot this deer.
Which that's a good scene for her, by the way.
What about these pants I got on? You think they're okay? Oh!
Imagine you're a deer. You're prancing along, you get thirsty, you spot a little brook, you put your little deer lips down to the cool, clear water. Bam! A fucking bullet rips off part of your head. Your brains are laying on the ground in little bloody pieces. Now I ask you, would you give a fuck what kind of pants the son of a bitch who shot you was wearing?
I would not doubt if like this speech was one of the big turnarounds for the members of the Academy to vote for her to win.
You think it's this one?
I think this is one of them.
Okay.
I think this is one of because this is one of those very memorable scenes for her, and not to mention the other one, which we'll get to.
Like, yeah, I remember as I was watching this, I was like, when I got to the scene near the end, I was like, oh yeah, I think this is what won her the Oscar.
Yeah.
So
I can see that too. But for some reason, it's the deer thing too was so good.
And then again, for my wife, her favorite scene that stands out is the biological clock ticking. That's scene.
Another one. That's a good one too. Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway,
I'll never get married.
So we get seeing Vinny's riding with Trotter, and he just asking for his files. You're allowed to do this. He did not know this, so he calls up his oh my goodness, secretary, whatever. Yes, thank you, Chad. I couldn't think of that word. And has her make copies and send them over.
And I like that he shows up later too in the hotel with that box of information. And she's at that point, she's already reading that book that he came home from the judge. And she's like halfway through it.
Yeah, and Lisa tells us, you know why he gave you those files? It's not because you went hunting. It's because he has to.
It's called disclosure.
Yep. Legal
and of
term.
course, one of the first things he does is he's like, "Are you reading this?" She's like, "Yeah." And of course, he goes and he takes the book from her.
Yeah.
I'm like, Vinny, she's allowed to read what she wants.
Yeah, you're right. And then we get another scene of the train coming through. I think this is where he goes down and the guy tells him what time, or does the train come through another time before he?
I think this is where he asked what time that train is coming. I think that's what it was because I think he wanted to be prepared.
Well, I think what he says, if this is the scene, what he says is, I thought you said this train normally doesn't come through at 5 a.m. The guy goes, no, it normally comes through 10 after 4.
10 after 4. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Vinny's not happy. He's like, so it even comes earlier. So the only reason it wasn't normal was because it was running late the last 2 days.
Like, I love too where he also found out from Mr. Trotter that Trotter have went ahead and let him use his cabin. Which
that's right.
Too. That's another big thing that comes up.
Yes, that is coming. Vinny's going back to court. He's finally got his suit. He's looking snazzy this time around. Now we're in the process.
He's looking lawyerly.
There you go, lawyerly. There you go. We're in the process of picking the jurors, and Trotter, of course, he's asking him, "What would you do to these men?" She's like, "I'd fry their ass. I'd fry them."
He's like, "She'll do.
She'll do.
She'll do." Oh my God. That doesn't sound good, does it? And then, of course, here we get a scene. Judge Holler is calling Vinny into his chambers. And he's like, you know what? I called New York and they've never heard of you. And he tells him about 20 years ago, he had to change his name to Jerry Gallo. And apparently, the scene where he knocks over the chess set, apparently that was real and they left it in the scene. He didn't actually mean to do that. So that's kind of cool. I always love those little tidbits like that.
Yeah.
So, of course, that sets Judge out. I was like, oh, okay, I'll be making a call about that, which that comes back brilliantly here in a minute. But
yeah.
So he's telling Lisa about it. And she's like, Gary Gallo, did you not, his name's been in the paper the last few days. And he's like, yeah. Okay. Why? Yeah, because he died last week. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I love too where she's like, she knew that she's like, basically like, you dummy. Like, that's because he died. Yeah.
And this is the scene at the cabin with the whole biological clock. Lisa's panicking. She's stomping the ground. And this is what I
tell Vinny is stressed out
because he's looking through his files. He's finally got all this discovery, all these files he can go through. He's trying to figure that out. But this is where I had to look at. Joe Pesci's 49 here and she's 27. So one, pretty big difference. But two, she's 27. Vinny's time, a man's time can somewhat go longer with making babies, it seems like. I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, there's guys in their 70s and probably even 80s.
Well, Larry King.
Yeah, Larry King.
So there you go. So he should be fine. And she's 27. Her clock is fine right now. She does not have to have a baby at this point. Now, granted, I don't know if her character's 27. That's the thing I don't know. I'm just saying Marissa Tomei is 27.
How much more shit can we pile on top of this?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that was good. I loved where he did it. Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe it was
Okay, maybe it was a bad time to bring it up.
It was a funny, fantastic scene.
Well, I hate to bring it up because I know you got enough pressure on you already. But we agreed to get married as soon as you won your first case. Meanwhile, 10 years later, my niece, the daughter of my sister, is getting married. My biological clock is ticking like this. And the way this case is going, I ain't never getting married.
Lisa, I don't need this. I swear to God, I do not need this right now, okay? I got a judge that's just aching to throw me in jail. An idiot who wants to fight me for $200. Slaughtered pigs. Giant loud whistles. I ain't slept in 5 days. I got no money, a dress code problem, and a little murder case, which in the balance holds the lives of 2 innocent kids. Not to mention your biological clock, my career, your life, our marriage, and let me see, what else can we pile on? Is there any more shit we could pile on to the top of the outcome of this case? Is it possible?
Maybe it was a bad time to bring it up.
And then, of course, what we have, Vinny, once again, can't get a peaceful night's rest to save his life. He's waking up. He's hearing stuff outside. He hears a noise outside. And what does he do? He runs out and immediately just fires.
He starts shooting the gun out of nowhere.
Oh my god, yeah. There's like, oh my god, there was some really good trivia too about that owl that was
I
interesting.
think that owl was just really doing that out there in the.
What it was is like well, for one, it's a real owl. I forget what the type of screeching owl it is, but what they did is like the director says they were lucky to get the scene with the owl here because
Right.
in order for it to get it to open its mouth, they presented meat to the owl apparently, and then when he comes out shooting, the reaction the owl does is it's exactly what happened on the set. And he's like, honestly, we were lucky to get that shot. And then of course the owl turns back around and it screeches again. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now
And
Vinny's.
you know what else I found out, by the way? I forgot to mention. Oh my god, this is crazy. All right. So, the courtroom is all set up, right? And what they filmed, of course, that in Georgia, but it was in a warehouse that they converted. And it was all like corrugated iron is what it was made of, but they were filming during the summer. So
it's hot as shit.
They were saying like the temperatures got as high as like 100 degrees in there.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was like, can you imagine?
Well, at least that puts them in that southern mood, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too bad they
that's true.
too bad they didn't have like kind of like a little bit of the sweats going on,
Yeah.
in some areas of the court or something, which that would have been pretty funny probably. But I was like, man, can you imagine filming and that? And it's like pretty heated and all that stuff.
So now Vinny's like, fuck this. I'm just going to go sleep in the car. And him and Lisa are in the car. And of course, she's like, oh, look, the stars. It's so romantic sleeping under the star. And of course, Vinny, he's just
He's like, I don't see any stars.
Yeah, he
see
just
stars.
can't see anything good right now. Which I guess it ends up thundering and lightning and raining right after he says that. So then it's the next morning, and of course they don't have an alarm in there. So Vinny wakes up and realizes he's late. And of course it's been raining, so their tires have been stuck in the mud. So Vinny goes to the back of the trunk to get a board out to get his tires under. And what does he accidentally do? He throws his suit into the mud.
Only suit he has.
Yeah.
He throws it into the mud.
But I love too where he's like, Lisa, what was in that bag? And she's like,
Your
the
suit.
suit.
I got it pressed for you. I thought you'd like it.
Why was my suit in the trunk? He's like, because I just got it
Dry
I just
cleaned
got
or
it dry
something, yeah.
cleaned or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man,
He's
she was
like,
doing
"Oh."
something so nice, and then bam,
Backfired.
bad way to yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That was
like
so hilarious because like they raced to town.
he's like, I got 30 minutes to shower, and
She's like, you take a shower, I get your fucking suit.
yeah.
So she tries to go to the dry cleaner, but they're closed
because of pneumonia.
pneumonia or whatever it was. There's an
Right.
outbreak there. So all the employees are sick. So then she has no choice but to go to a secondhand
Yep.
store to find a suit.
Oh, but
And-
then on top of that, you got Vinny who's
Runs into
who ends up
JT
running
again.
to JT again.
Oh yeah.
JT's finally got the money.
He's like, look what I got here now. And he's like,
He's just like,
oh my god, he does like
flies. He's like a flying punch or something.
yeah, it's like a punch and body press all at the same time.
Covered in mud too, because he fell in the mud. So yeah.
I like when he's like, I don't have time for this shit, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I don't see John Lovitz doing that.
So he finally arrives to court and he's wearing this ugly burgundy suit, I guess would be the best color.
It's something from like, the 1860s or something.
It looked like he was like a movie theater usher from way back when. You almost expected him to come in there with a flashlight going, shh, I'm talking.
And the judge like, are you mocking this court with that suit? And he's like,
mocking? No, judge, I'm not mocking.
I like how he has to explain it too.
And I guess the point where the judge is like, I don't like your attitude. And he's like, yeah, what else is fucking new?
And he gets held in contempt of court again.
I forgot to mention as well the part where they did wake up the next morning after that storm, and we get to see the footage of the one tire spinning while the other wasn't. That's important detail as well.
That plays a bigger role later on
because that shows you the actual visual of what later happens when it comes to Lisa again later in the movie.
Right, so
this is the part where he actually starts to cross-examine the witnesses.
Yes, this is where he starts doing a good job,
and this is like a turning point in the movie.
Oh, but only after he gets some sleep too, and during the trial.
Yeah, because
first he was like sleeping at the table.
Yeah, because Trotter's giving his opening arguments, which of course, when you give opening arguments, you're going to be talking to the jurors directly because that's who you're trying to convince.
Yeah.
You don't need to really convince the judge. He just has to agree with everything and rule whether or not it's admissible or not. You got to convince these jurors of what you're saying, which is why, Chad, as you said earlier, you like how animated he gets. Identical. Identical. But he's selling it to the jurors by doing that.
Yeah.
And he's telling them about the stuff. He's saying that Bill and Stan ran out of the stack of suds, getting in the green convertible and screeching.
Yeah, what the fuck is it? He's talking about and all of our little ancestors came over the ocean to America.
Yep.
I don't even know what the fuck he was even going on about. I was like, Jesus.
And then
of course, all those jurors are just smiling at him because he's this like Southern charmer guy. Yep. He's one of them.
Yep. And then I like to is like, he's like, all right, basically it's Vinny's turn. And Vinny's like, wait. That's only after the stutterer guy, if I remember right.
No, he wakes up first. The stutterer guy comes after Vinny.
All right. So Vinny comes over. He's like,
everything
that guy says is bullshit.
Yeah. And now it's
like,
time
for
Gibbons. Yeah, that's
he's
it.
Like, and the guy, and then he's like, he's like, it was like overruled or something like that, right? He's like the jury. He's like, they will strike out what Vinny says and only keep thank you.
Thank you in the record.
Right. Opening statement. Strike out what he said for his opening statement except thank you.
Could you imagine the transcript of that court? Like guys going with the opening statements, like all this big grandiose, and then like it's like Vincent LaGuardia. He's like, "Thank you."
That's it. Hell of a statement. And now it's the defendant lawyer or the public defender lawyer Gibbons' turn, and of course he starts stuttering and he's like spitting all over the jurors, talking, and I'm just like, ugh. Like. Obviously, now we live in a COVID world, but even pre-COVID, I don't want people spitting on me while they're
because he was getting all up in their faces.
Yeah, he was getting right up on them. Oh my goodness! And he
had a hard time getting those words out, and it would like take forever. But what I read for trivia, which I ended up watching the scene in particular after I read it, there's a point where I forget what's the stutterer's name in the movie. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Gibbons. Yeah. There's a point where he pats one of the jurors on the shoulder, and over his shoulder in the distance, you see Vinny, Bill, and Stan. But what you see is that in that moment that they captured, they're all trying to stop themselves from laughing. So you can actually see, like Stan, for example, the actor over there, he's got his hand over his mouth and he's turning his head, trying not to bust out laughing. But meanwhile, you got like Ralph Macchio just trying to keep his head down, also with his mouth covered, and Joe Pesci kind of doing the same, like keeping his head down too, because they were wanting to bust out laughing. So it's actually the one moment where you see where they wanted to you see a little bit of breaking going on in the acting. Yeah,
I have to keep an eye on that next time.
It's just that 1 second of it, basically, but you see it and you can't help but laugh now that you know it.
Right. And of course, Gibbons sits back down and Stan's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "I get nervous when I have to speak." And I'm like, "You're in the wrong profession."
Yeah.
That is a profession all about speaking in front of people. Like, I would never want to do that. I don't want to speak in front of people, but
well, and to be a lawyer and then try to defend people who are accused of murder, and especially when they didn't do the murder, but you had to convince that to the jury, like that's scary. That's a scary responsibility.
Right. And now we're getting to the first witness. And I think this is Mr. Tipton. Is that what you said, Chris? Okay.
Yeah, the grits guy.
The grits man.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying he saw the car screeching off. And of course, Trotter's like, "What was it, this car?" And he says it was. And then of course it's Gibbons' turn. I can't do it. You were doing this the like, Gibbons stutter with Mr.
Tipton. Chad did it good.
And he's like, "How far were you from them?" And he says he was probably about 50 feet from the clients. And he's like, "But you notice in your pocket there, you're wearing eyeglasses." He's like, "Were you wearing them that day?" He's like, "No." He's like, "But these are just reading glasses. I don't have to wear them." And then Gibbons asking to tell them what color eyes the defendants have. And of course he gets it right because he can see from far away.
The way he did it too, he's like, "And a hazel green." He's like brown and a hazel green.
And he's like, what did he say? What did the Gibbons say to him after that?
I think he was like, wasn't that the final question?
That was the final question. Like, he was pretty much like, shit. He didn't say that, but
I want to say he sat there and he was like, "Thank you," or something like
something.
That.
Yeah, he said he like pointed something else to it. It was like really simple, like
because he realized he done fucked up, is what he realized. Yeah. He's like, "Oh shit, that didn't work." So now it's Vinny's turn.
He's like, "Vinny, wake up."
Oh, and this is where Vinny.
And this is a great scene.
The two Utes. He calls them the two Utes.
Did you see the trivia on this one too, Josh?
That apparently was a real conversation between Pesci and the director trying to explain this.
Yes. What Utes? Yeah, the two Utes. What's a Ute?
I like it. This is so good too because
then he's like, "Sorry, the two youths."
No,
right. And then he goes back over
he's like, the two defendants.
The two defendants. And he like glares over at the judge.
And the judge is now looking at him like, "You asshole."
You can tell he's ready to hold him in contempt of court again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vinny's trying to make the case. He's saying, "But what if two similar looking boys came in and they had a similar looking car and did this and got out of there?" And the guys, this is where it comes into play. The guy said they didn't have time. It was only 5 minutes. He was making breakfast. It was only 5 minutes. He's like, "What'd you have for breakfast?" He said, "Eggs and grits."
Yeah,
and then
I like grits too. Yeah, I like grits.
And he's like, "So were you?"
How do you like your grits? Regular, soft, or al dente? He's like, "Just regular, I guess." Regular.
Yeah. Then he asked him, "Did you use instant grits?" And he said, "No self-respecting Southerner would use instant grits." Boy, he got mega.
He's like, "I take pride in my grits."
And I love where the jury, like they get a shot of the jury and they're just like smiling and nodding, like.
And so he says, "Okay, so if you cook grits, how is it you were able to? What secret do you know, basically, that you cook them in 5 minutes when everybody knows to cook grits? It takes 15 to 20."
I'm a fast cook, I guess. What was that? What was that? Did you say you are a fast cook?
Okay.
Sorry, are we to believe that in all the universe
water boils faster on your stove than everybody else? But the laws of physics cease to exist on your stove?
Josh, you need to get chatted.
He's doing good.
Sound bite for this one.
Oh, I'm keeping that in.
The laws of physics cease to exist on your stove. That was a great, Chad.
Are you sure about those 5 minutes? Are you sure, Mister? Are you sure about those 5 minutes?
Oh,
I could have been mistaken. That's right. I'm done with this guy.
Yeah, I'm done with this guy. And you hear like
And
one
then
person
that-
clap, and Stan turns around and fires.
He's like,
He's like, I don't
You're
want
fired.
him.
And then they hold him in contempt of court, and he's like, and Lisa's like, "I'll
And
bail
see,
you out." And he's
this
like,
is what
"Nope, I'm
happens
gonna
when Vinny
stay
gets
here."
rest.
In fact, he offers to just sleep in the prison that night so he can finally get some rest. And of course, you hear
that
all
was
the
There's like
Oh my
a
God.
riot going on in the background. He's just sleeping like a baby.
Which kind
sleeping
of
with
blows my
us.
mind because I'm sitting there going, but there wasn't a lot of people in the jail.
Like the whole
Oh,
five.
now all of a sudden everything's going to
decide to-
hell.
Where's this riot coming from? But yeah, he's sleeping with a big grin on his face with that one.
And the one night he finally gets peaceful rest.
All right, and here we go, Chow. Here comes Dirty Window guy. I can't remember. I don't remember his name either. And Vinny's got pictures, and he's showing. He's like, "Are these your windows? Now, what does that look like on your window? That's dirt." And then he shows him some other window. And what does this look like? Well,
He's like,
those
"What's
are
that over the window?"
screens.
He's like, "That's a screen." He's like, "And what is all this stuff over?" He's like, "Trees." He's
Which-
like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just go ahead and yell it out when you know it."
Yeah. Which, by the way, we got to mention too. And I forgot if we did or not. Where earlier in the film, he finds out that along with the disclosure, he's also allowed to go and talk to the witnesses.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we do see those variety of scenes
Where he's
talks to
gathering
each other.
evidence.
He's gathering.
That's true.
Their
That's
Doing his own
statements.
investigation. Yeah.
And there's that part where he was with that guy with the window, and that guy was just like concentrated on the TV. And then you see Vinny like behind the couch. He goes, "What's that?" And then he snaps a picture.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how he ends up having that
The
picture
photos
of
like all the
window.
trees
Yeah.
and the bushes and everything. Yeah.
He's like, and what do you call those things on the tree there? Well, that's leaves. He's like,
very good.
He's like, "Yeah, just shout it out when you know it."
he's
He's like, "What do you call all these little bushy things in between?" Bushes.
He's like, huh?
He's like, "So you were able to positively identify the defendants through this dirty window, through these crud screens, through these trees with all these leaves on it, and all these bushes."
7 bushes to be exact.
Seven
He hasn't,
bu-
he
he's
hasn't
like, "How
counted
many
out the
bushes?"
bushes.
He's like, 5. He's like, don't forget this one and this one. 7 bushes.
Oh, it is great writing here. It really is.
It is. Oh man.
All right, now we're getting Vinny talking to Mrs. Riley, who was the first witness earlier.
And only Mrs. Riley.
Oh yeah. This,
But, yeah, in a minute-
there's
in a
a thing
minute.
about that one too. I'm sure maybe Josh knows the information on that.
Oh, but yeah, he finds out she has a hard time seeing without her glasses.
Yeah,
And
which
he-
is funny because at first, when we first see her, I don't think we see her wearing glasses, if I remember right. Correct?
I think you might.
I think this is the first time we see her where he's like, he was
where
like,
she puts
"Whoa,
the
those are
glasses on,
thick
he's like,
glasses."
"Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. She, I think she says she had them since she was like 6.
Something like that. Because she said that she had to do like, she had to thicken them up like 10 times.
10 times.
over
Yeah,
those
she had to
60
thicken them up.
years.
Yeah, in 60 years. He's like, "Do you think maybe you need new glasses?"
Oh no.
She's like,
I think
"No,
I'm
I'm
I
good.
think they're fine.
Yeah.
So he gives her, he's like, "And how far away were you from the defendant?" She says, "Oh, about 100 feet. So he takes out a huge tape measure and he says, "Will you hold this for me?" And he walks back
So
and he
back of the
says,
courtroom,
Yep.
yeah.
This is 50 feet.
50
This is
feet.
half the distance
Yep.
that you were from the defendants. How many fingers am I holding up?
Let
And
the let the
judge
court,
goes,
let the court know that the defense is holding up 2 fingers.
He's like, "Your
Your
Honor,
Honor,
please."
Oh, sorry.
And that's
Now,
when he
Mrs.
says,
Riley,
and he ad-libbed this on
only
his own.
Mrs. Riley.
Chris, go ahead. I know he did it on his own. Did you have anything else specific about that?
No, I was actually going. I think it's the same thing. That did you
Yeah.
find out too? Like it was ad libbed. That
Yeah,
part?
he ad-libbed
Yeah.
it. The only Mrs. Riley part he ad-libbed. And of course, he still holds up to and she gets it wrong. He
Yeah,
walks
says
all
4.
the way up to her face,
He's like, "What
puts
do you
the
think
finger
now,
in front
dear?"
of her face.
I think I need new glasses.
He's like, "I'm done with this witness."
Yeah. He still hasn't quite figured no more questions.
So then Trotter calls Vinny and tells him that he's got some new evidence. This is after the court. He's calling him on the phone. And he's like,
you sure are confident now, but you know what? I got something that's going to bust your bubble.
so
He's
we
like,
get
well,
to
you know, you have to disclose it to me. Yeah, but you'll find out
We'll
tomorrow.
find out tomorrow.
like 5 minutes before the damn
Yeah.
the appointment, the time.
And so then like Vinny runs over
to the judge.
Lisa and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah, to Lisa, yeah.
Baby, show me that part about the discovery stuff. So
That's
she's like,
right.
Yeah. So then the next day they're in court.
And and then it comes time for Trotter to do his thing. But then he's like, Judge, can I come to the desk, please?
He's like, as you wish.
And then he goes,
well, first he's got to introduce the
verbatim,
witness
I
here,
think.
because this witness is the special automotive instructor of forensic studies for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And he's like, and how long have you been doing this? Oh, 18 years. And then Vinny has to talk to the judge and wants the witness to be disqualified for lack of notice. He didn't have time to prepare, which the judge would have to uphold that in real legal proceedings. He would not be allowed to to overrule that.
Oh, Josh coming out with the legal stuff again.
Well, I don't know. And could it be different in Alabama though?
Maybe, but I don't think you could do that. I mean, I don't know any, specific law in Alabama, but that'd be hard to get overturned to not disqualify this guy by giving him notice
That's what I would
5
think
minutes
too,
before.
But then I was like, the judge can do that? But I agree. I was like, that's weird. Any lawyers, listeners out there, maybe you can clarify this for us.
Yeah, because that's not a notice for someone with this specific knowledge. You would need to be able to come up with something. But
agreed.
As Vinny said, to contradict the veracity of his statements.
Well, and then I have to wonder that even if, of course, by going through that Vinny would have, well, no, he wouldn't have had another day to contradict all of that, would he? Because I think after that, all they had was just lunch, right? Because that was the final day of the court, right? So yeah, never mind. I was thinking like, well, judge would have to give him at least another day or something. Never mind, because that was the final day of court, I think, for them.
So now we're getting to see this expert witness in action. And he shows him the picture of the tires on the defendant cars with the tire marks in the parking lot. And he's like, yep, they're a match. And he's like, what'd you use? He said, well, we analyzed the rubber for marks on the road and the tires. We used the HP 5710 dual column gas
chromatography or something like that. Yeah.
With flame analyzation detectors. And the rubber was the same marks from the road and the tire. Identical marks. Right, Chad? And that's where he says it. He is very animated, which I think would work to sway those jurors, though. I really do.
Oh, he also does that part too.
But that's
like,
that's that part too. Again, that's a real life conversation that we're saying.
Well, the other thing too.
Oh, that's right.
Speaking of him being really animated, was like when they were talking about the tire and stuff. He's like, yeah, they're same model, same size. He's like, same model.
That's right.
Same tire. And what else did you find?
Yeah, he did the jazz hands in front of the jury at that point. So he pulled out some Liza Minnelli there.
Oh, the judge grants a 1 hour recess. And of course he asked Vinny to in his chambers. And he's like, Vinny, you're a dead man. He's like, I asked New York about Jerry Gallo. And of course, Vinny quick on his feet. He's like, Jerry Gallo's dead. Gallo. I know Jerry Gallo. He's dead. I said Jerry Callow with a C, not a G. And of course, Judge Holler's like, oh, shit, I done messed up. He's getting uncomfortable.
Either that or at that point, he's like,
this is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. Yeah. He's like, I am going to find out for sure.
Yeah. And that's when he goes to try to call the clerk.
The clerk's at lunch, I guess, because
he
says they'll call me back after 3, which means you better win this case in the next 90 minutes.
I was like, damn. Actually, when I first saw it, I thought he said 9 minutes. I was like, win the case in 9 minutes.
Yeah, no.
But I'm saying everything like, God, like 90 minutes is an awful long lunch break. Where do I put my resume in for that job?
But you know what? That's also probably the time it was the only time he had in order to try to contradict the automotive guy.
Well, Chad, I can tell you this, as someone who's had to go to these court things, those judges will sometimes take 2 hours for lunch.
Really?
Yeah.
They'll give a 1 hour recess, but they won't be back for 2 or 3 hours. So,
well, I want that job.
Yeah,
You'll be waiting all day, basically, though.
He wants the judge's job.
Oh, you want the
Yeah.
judge job? Oh, that's
like,
far-
I think today's a 4-hour lunch break.
Yeah, we'll start this case back in the morning. I'm done
Exactly.
for the day.
I'm tired today.
recess in 24 hour or recess for 24 hours.
We get Vinny in that. I guess it's the same diner they had breakfast in. I'm not sure, but it made me wonder when he said lunch. What was the lunch? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention since they only have certain things.
Yeah.
But he's looking over the case, and here comes Lisa. She wants to show him all these pictures.
Can I help?
Yeah, she wants to help.
Yeah.
And she's
Oh my god, the poor girl just offering the help, and the way he react. He was such an asshole in this scene.
yeah, because he has a picture of the tire marks. He's like, oh, look at how far away they are. Basically saying she took a bad picture, but
Yeah.
we see no. But he's like, oh, wait a minute, and slacks the tape. He's like, here it is. This is the one. Picture of me in the hotel shower. Oh, geez. Oh, so Lisa storms out. Vinny's back in the courtroom, and he's cross-examining this auto guy. And he gets him to admit that the tires he's talking about are the most popular size of the most popular tire that you can find. So it's not like it'd be uncommon for two different cars, two different vehicles to have this at least same tire.
Which is a good argument.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is a decent argument. Now it's time for Vinny's to call his first witness, and he's looking at the pictures, and it clicks. So he writes something down on the notebook paper, and he gives it to the sheriff, and he's like, "Go trace this. I need you to go trace this."
But thankfully, the judge gives him at least 3 minutes.
Yeah. He asked for a 5-minute recess, and he's like, "I'll give you 3." So he goes to get Lisa, and he has to call her in as a rebuttal.
But of course, she's on the phone, and she's not having it. He's trying to. Then he has to end up picking her up and dragging her into the courtroom.
Yeah. He does.
Oh man,
drag her into the courtroom.
I like when when he's kind of getting frustrated because of the time running out, and he's like, give me the phone. Give me the phone. He has like a Home Alone moment there. The way that he kind of screams out.
Yeah.
Of course, he calls her as an automotive expert as a rebuttal. And of course, Trotter's like, well, hold on. We got to make sure she's qualified to be an automotive expert. He's like, what do you do?
Who is he to be asking for a last minute thing when he brings in this last minute automotive expert? But
it was pretty funny because he's like, so what makes you how do you know about cars? She's like, well, my father was a mechanic, my brothers were mechanics, my uncles were mechanics, cousins.
I got the whole list. Yeah, I got the whole list. But first, he's like,
"What do you do?" Yeah. Oh, you're getting ready to say it too.
Yeah, I'm an out of work hairdresser. You do it, Chris. You can do the accent. I can't get the accent.
He's like, "So what do you do?" I'm an out of work hairdresser.
He's like, and how does this make you qualified?
Like, it doesn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's ready to leave.
She was.
But no, it's her father was a mechanic. His father was a mechanic.
My mother's mechanic.
My mother's father was a mechanic. My 3 brothers are mechanics. 4 uncles on my father's side are mechanics. And Trotter's like, yeah, but have you ever worked as a mechanic? She's like, of course. What have you done? Tune-ups, oil changes, brake reclining, engine rebuilt some trannies, rear ends, but nothing to do with the tire marks that she says. But Vinny says she's not an expert in tires. I want her to be an expert in general automotive knowledge, which I think she's proved.
Yeah. Well, especially then he was like, but if Mr. Trotter wants to, further ask her questions basically to see if she's really, he's more than willing to. I like how he's just kind of, he knows that's his play. I think that's his strategy, is to get him to do that.
Right. And then Trotter tries to stump Lisa. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he tried to word like,
oh yeah, that question.
Yeah,
something about
like a different size engine with a car from a certain year.
Yeah.
But
he was saying it was like the 1950s.
He's like, what would the ignition time be on it? And there was no way she could answer the question. And they were going back and forth. And she's like, I can't answer the question. And the judge is finally like, why can you not answer the question? Because it's a trick question.
And she tells him exactly like that model wasn't put on this car and that year didn't come until this year. Like she knew the exact specifics of how to rebut it.
But she said, but if it was, it would be like 4 degrees before tap dead center or something, which I have. all that went
She
over my
just-
head. I was like,
She
ugh.
just like but if blah blah blah, and I was like, damn. And I like when he's saying, he's like, she's qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is where Vinny takes that picture that she took, and he shows that to her, and he's like, "Listen, Miss Vito, can you?" Yeah, I forget. He always calls her Miss Vito during this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you confirm that these are the same tire marks were made by the 1964 Buick Skylark? And she's like, "No, the one tire mark was made by a 1963 Pontiac Tempest." Because of, like you said, the one spinning, the one not, how they
Yeah.
set.
I like where he's like, does the defense?
Yeah.
No,
He's
is
like,
the
it's been
defense?
argued by the defense that there were two
Yeah.
sets of guys in two separate cars.
But does the defense hold water?
And two identical cars that like, does the defense's case hold water? No, the defense is wrong. He's like, are you sure?
I'm positive.
Yeah, because
How
she
can you
also
be
she
so
gives
sure?
I'm not enough of a car guy to get all this, but she gives a speech about the posi traction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
on the
which
Tempest
I
versus-
think is that visual where the tire was spinning versus the other
Okay.
tire. I think that's the visual of maybe the positive traction
Yeah.
that she's talking about.
In the
So-
case their car didn't have positive traction
Yeah.
because it didn't power both wheels. There was one wheel that would turn, the other one just stayed stationary.
Yeah, because she
But
even
the
kind
car
of
that made the marks had positive traction, and on top of that, it had an individual suspension in
Yeah.
the rear tires.
they can only
allowing
make
it for the tires to stay flat.
they had the equal lines, the flat equal lines, whereas
and
the other
width,
one
perfect width
and the perfect width
of the
yeah.
tire marks.
It kind of goes by a little fast, but
Right.
you kind of pick up a little bit of the
Mhm.
details. And also she does go back and mention about, but anyone in Alabama knows when you got the one tire spinning and then blah, because she brought up the mud in the tire.
Mud
thing
and
too.
tires.
So she was talking about the
argument
positive
from-
traction thing.
She was
yeah.
explaining the positive traction. Yeah. So, but yeah, she also, like you said, she brought up the good point about the equal tire marks and the suspension of it. Yeah.
And we find out from her, both cars were made by GM, and they were both available in this metallic mint green color. So they could easily have been confused for one another.
Yeah, she said there was like only two other cars that had positive traction on it. One was the Corvette, which she's like could never ever
Be mistaken.
be confused
For
with a
Pontiac
Scarlet.
Tempest.
She's like, but the other one had the same height, width, weight, colors, tires, et cetera, et cetera. And she's like, that was the 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
Yep. And I like how she just flips the picture down too after that.
And of course, Trotter's talking to Wilbur, the automotive expert over there, about whether or not he should try to question this. And he's like, nope. And they call Wilbur back onto the stand, and he confirms what Lisa said was absolutely fact. There's no way to dispute that. And then, of course, here comes Sheriff coming back in. So Vinny
He was
immediately
tracing a number for Vinny.
he was tracing something
Well,
for Vinny.
Tracing the
Tracing
car,
something.
because I think Vinny knew what kind of car. I think it finally clicked with him.
Mhm.
Yep.
Because I get the feeling that Vinny was also like a mechanic, a grease monkey.
Well, he said he
too.
worked with with Lisa's father.
Yeah, and
at
so I
that
think
one
what
point.
he needed a separate witness
Yeah.
to verify what he was thinking. So I think what he did on that piece of paper was wrote down like 63 Pontiac Tempest, and that's what the sheriff went and looked up, because the sheriff said, on a hunch, I went and looked up for anything recently on a 1963 Pontiac Tempest. So that to me tells me that Vinny knew exactly what Lisa was going to say. And so he just
Right.
needed to sort of have those
Well, that's what I'm
that
saying, like,
domino effect. I
As soon as
guess.
he got her on the stand, the way that he talked was kind of facetious, I guess you say. And I think that was his strategy, because it was like, oh, but she's more than qualified. Like he was wanting to get them to say it in a way. So, and test her out. So I do think that was, I agree. I think he knew exactly what it was, but he needed to get them to say it. He couldn't explain all of it.
And he calls the sheriff to the stand, and we find out that two boys were recently arrested for stealing a 1963 Pontiac Tempest, metallic mint green, and they found the gun in the glove compartment in the car. So
Which was
there's your murder weapon.
57 Magnum, is that right? 57 Magnum?
Yeah, that sounds
357 Magnum, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
And
right.
of course, the bullet that killed the clerk was a 357 Magnum.
Right. Of course, Trotter, he's like, shit, we've lost. He decides to dismiss the charges. They all celebrate. Judge is sitting there trying to get order. That's not happening. Stan apologizes to Vinny, and you can see Vinny's trying to get out of there because he does not want this judge catching him at this point.
I love how he's sitting there going, "Go get the car. I only got 3 minutes to get out of town." And every time he's like stepping closer.
But the funniest thing was like when he's talking to Stan, he's like, "Oh, you're welcome. Let's do it again sometime." And Stan's like, "Wait, what? I don't want to do this shit again."
Yeah, really.
And I like how, again, he was making like each step he was making towards the car, someone would get
first. It was Stan that stopped him, and then it was
Bill, I think. Yeah,
stopped him,
and then it was Trotter,
then it was Trotter, and then finally he's getting away. Like the judge catches up with him.
I like when he said,
"Yeah," because I think Trotter actually invites him down to be a lawyer with him down in Alabama.
Yeah.
But no, the judge said he finally got the papers back from the court, and he's like, "Win some, you lose some. You were one hell of a trial lawyer." So apparently, this Jerry Callow has a hell of a record,
right? And of course, we found out some more information about how that happened.
Yes, Lisa tells her that she made a call and she made Jerry Callow look like a hell of a lawyer. And I don't know. Were there any more details? I can't remember.
Yeah, she called. She's like, "I had to hook up to get that happen." And he's like, "What friends do you have that are lawyers?" And she's like, "Your mentor," and basically it was his mentor, his teacher that he talked about earlier in the film. And so she called him, and he made Jerry Callow look like a hell of a lawyer.
Yes. And of course, Vinny's still a tad bit disappointed that he needed her help.
He's like, "I want to do this on my own." She's like, "Oh, yeah." She did that thing again. She's like, "Well," and then I like too. She's like, "Maybe there's more things we can do together like this," basically, because it sounds like she had a good time.
Yeah, and then they're going down the road, driving away, arguing about whether or not they're going to get married or when they're going to get married.
Like, "I'm going to get married in a church,"
and that's my cousin Vinny. Woo! Although, Chris, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see the note about the potential sequel they were going to have?
Yeah, around 2012 or 2011, I think they were talking about it, right?
I didn't look.
At least that's what I saw. Okay, because I think Marissa Tomei actually got attached to it at first, but then she ended up dropping out, and then it just didn't go anywhere from there at that point.
Right, because they were going to have Vinny as a practicing attorney over in Britain.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Once Marissa Tomei dropped out,
they
didn't have a story that made without
Vinny.
Her.
Yeah.
Well, no, they decided they couldn't come up with a story that made sense without her because she's too pivotal.
That's what I was going to say. Is like it would not make sense.
Well, also curious. I mean, Joe Pesci's retired, right? He's been retired for a while.
Well, he did The Irishman. I know that was one of the recent ones he did.
Yeah, that was only a couple years ago.
Yeah, I feel like.
But I think
like
you're
the
right.
big
I
news
think
on
he's
that
kind
was
of
that
semi-retired.
Was that Martin Scorsese drew him out of retirement in order to do that?
Because I know he's only in his early 70s now. I think he's like 72 these days. But and then like Marissa Tomei, I think
no, because he was 49.
Oh, he was 49 when.
So he'd be 79 because it's celebrating 30 years. So he's pushing 80.
Yeah, you're right.
He'll either be 70, probably be 79 this year unless his birthday passed. But because I looked up his age and for the movie and it was 49. That was 30 years ago now. So
that's crazy to think.
All right, so now let's get into what.
I think they also made. By the way, I think they also wrote novels that continue the story, though.
Oh yeah, Lord, I was researching those. Yeah,
there's like a couple. Even one as recent as 2020. I think.
Wow. Okay.
There's 3 novels because there's a novelization of My Cousin Vinny, and there's Back to Brooklyn, and then there's a 3rd one.
Now it makes me interested to actually check those books. Yeah, see what.
Because I know, like in the books, they said that Lisa becomes like his investigator.
That makes sense. I could see her doing that. Actually, I could see even My Cousin Vinny TV series if they wanted to do something like that. Even though it would be really different without the actor.
That's the thing. I don't know if I want to see it without these two.
I know. It'd be really hard.
Yeah. But for now, let's go to what our listeners thought of My Cousin Vinny.
Mail, motherfucker!
First, we have Shoot the Flick just saying, one of my favorite movies ever. Big Nick says, the scene with the owl still makes me laugh. Well, I hope you learned something about that owl scene, being that was the real reaction the owl gave and they were able to get it. So
it's so funny because that owl just like kind of had that slight jump and looked behind him and then he And then when Vinny goes back in, that owl just turns around to the camera and
Yeah. And then the Game for a Movie podcast says one of the most quotable comedies of all time. And they use the gif of when Vinny gets done with the witness. I got no more uses for this guy.
That's Chad's favorite line because that's what he says to people in real life.
Almost, yeah.
My buddy Jeff Hunt says a surprisingly great courtroom drama surrounded by a hilarious movie. Great acting performances all around.
Yes, 100%.
I have to agree. I have to agree with that. Pop Cannon says absolute classics. One of the reasons I named my son Vincent was so all of my cousins could say they have a cousin Vinny.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. And Vincent is a strong name anyway.
Yeah.
So I like
And
that.
I think that's why he put one of the reasons why, not just the only reason why. So it makes sense. And
It's a great name. Good choice.
He continues on. Marissa Tomei is spectacular. Pesci is funny. Love the rest of the cast too.
Yes.
My buddy Vern over on the Cinema Recalls podcast says, I enjoyed it very much the first time I saw it on VHS. It's a great comedy, but it wasn't something I needed to rewatch or analyze. Vern, I'm going to challenge you to go ahead and give this one a rewatch, buddy. I think you'll find there is a lot to look at, especially as we talked about all the clues leading up to that end scene and her big end speech.
It's so detailed. You pay attention to the dialogue, I think maybe a little bit more in particular, and then you see the action performed and it gives you all those hints and information you need. And that's some of the things, like all the rewatches I made over the years, but I feel like I've kind of learned something new over the years every time I watched it. So I agree. Definitely give it a check out, Vern.
Yeah, I think you need to give that one a revisit. It's definitely worth it. Buddy Jesse over on the Recasted podcast says, one of my all-time favorite films. I watch it with my mom at least twice a year just for laughs. I can understand
Good
that.
for the whole family.
Yeah. And then, this must be Wayne, also on the Recasted podcast, says a brilliant reminder of how versatile and underrated Pesci is.
I can see that a little bit because he's always sort of been the character actor. But this was his first leading role from what I understand, like where he was the main guy. So, and he did a freaking-tastic job. So, a lot of character actors, I think, get underrated, and I can see that.
All right, the Cult-Worthy podcast. I don't see him again. They said, I'll hit you up after work. I got a few things to say, but I don't think they got back. We'll see if they're somewhere else in here, but I think they forgot to get back to us. Will Horror podcast says, man, what a classic. Yeah,
absolutely.
Even though it's my first time, I have to agree. Kiram, oh my God, I'm going to butcher this name. Kiram Maliki Sanchez says, I will never stop crushing on Marissa Tomei. And you know what? I can understand that. That woman, even today as Aunt May, is beautiful.
She's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even still today as Aunt May in the Spider-Man movie, she's not like any Aunt May we've ever seen. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. And she's like late 50s now. So
yeah.
But she's absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. Julene from the It Goes Down in the PM podcast says, this movie was so funny. I have so many favorite scenes from the movie. Buddy Peter Pikowski says, fantastic comedy. Pesci is great, but Tomei's work here is what I consider the definitive comedic supporting performance. She elevates the material. She reminds me of Judy Holliday or Marilyn Monroe, just sharp and funny.
Ooh, that's really good. That's a good compliment. I like that.
Because
like I was looking here on who she was against in the Oscars and that year, and so she was up against like Judy Davis from Husbands and Wives, Joan Plowright from Enchanted April, Vanessa Redgrave from Howard's End, and Miranda Richardson from Damage. And she was up against heavy veteran actresses in this category, and I think no one expected her to win in this category.
I think this is one of the movies that a lot of people still say they got wrong and they don't agree with her winning. But I don't know. I think she did great. So I haven't seen those other movies. So
she was fantastic in this. Like she gave a hell of a performance in this one. And obviously the members of the Academy thought so too.
Exactly. I don't think sometimes you can look back at some of the Oscars and say, yeah, they got it wrong. I don't think this is one of those. I think she deserved it. Now, I didn't see the other movie, so I guess
Right. That's not to say the other actresses didn't do a great job, but this just happened to be that one year where her performance just kind of inched out everybody. And apparently a lot of the actors thought so too.
My buddy Carlo over on the Movie Loot says, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen My Cousin Vinny, at least not the whole thing. Sorry. Hey, no need to apologize, Carlo. Check it out. This is this is your motivation. Go get it checked out. You'll enjoy it, I promise. My buddy Nick from the Film Shake podcast says, oh, this is great. Chris, I don't know if you saw this because I know some of these you've looked at, but he says, my 9th grade civics teacher showed us the unedited cut of this movie in class. We all laughed our asses off. The following year, he was no longer a 9th grade civics teacher.
No.
I was like, oh no.
Well, you know what? You guys were lucky in your school because you got to see a really good pivotal movie, and it's a movie that's used in education, especially for those in law school. So it wasn't a bad thing that the teacher showed you.
All right. So Jen S says, what a great choice. Such a classic, warm and funny and surprisingly technically accurate from a legal procedure point of view. One of the best courtroom movies ever made. And the supporting cast, priceless. Austin Pendleton alone was worth the price of admission. Of course, we mentioned he was John Gibbons, the stuttering attorney. In which Peter responded to her, did you see the short documentary on Austin Pendleton? It's only half an hour, but so cool. I kind of need to check that out because she asked no, and he gave her the link and everything. So it's definitely, I think that's worth checking out. I like I said, Austin Pendleton's one of those guys, you'll recognize him when you see him, even if you can't remember exactly where you've seen him. Yeah. Ed from the Film Effect podcast says this film was huge 30 years ago. I remember the movie's hype so naturally I saw it early on. Pesci's hilarious and so memorable. What makes this film so good is a super smart screenplay from Dale Launer. It's a shame he followed this up with Love Potion number 9, and then he just vanished. In which Jeff Hunt responded, whoa.
It's crazy to think the same screenwriter did Love Potion number 9.
Jeff Hunt says, whoa, Love Potion number 9 was wild. Sandy Bullock Springboard. Which, of course, I had to respond because that was the first movie I ever saw.
It was.
Sandy Bullock in.
Same,
Love Potion number 9.
I think so, too. Yeah.
And then Jeff continued on. Then she would light Demolition Man on fire, which
I remember seeing that in theaters.
Demolition Man?
Yeah.
Lucky. I didn't get to see it in theaters.
Yep. I definitely remember that one. And and I think a lot of people will say Speed was like her big breakout, perhaps.
That was her big breakout.
I remember seeing that one, I think, really on VHS, not in theaters.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it on VHS or HBO. I didn't see it. I didn't see either one of those in theaters. Demolition Man, like, don't get me wrong, she's good, she's great, but Demolition Man for me is all about Wesley Snipes as Simon Phoenix. Steals the show, steals that movie.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and that is the end of the comments. If you want to hear your comments read when I post about the movie, just make sure to get them down, and we'll read them on the show.
And thank you guys for sharing your comments, by the way. And
we love it. We love reading them. We love reacting
so exciting. Yeah, it was exciting to see how enthusiastic I think people were about this particular poll, and then with this movie as well. I think a lot of people were looking forward to it.
Well, and Chris, I'm glad you said that because that leads us to our next part. Now it's time to get to business. And before we list, we're going to be trying up a little bit of a format change starting next month. We're going to try doing the audio commentary style. So we'll just hit play on the movie. We'll sync it up, do a 3, 2, 1 play, and we'll just kind of give our thoughts. I'll probably still look up facts. I'm sure Chris, I know, normally likes to look up stuff. Chad does as well sometimes. So we'll look up the stuff. So we'll be ready to talk about it, bring it up. We'll talk about when we saw the movie. We'll talk about all the same stuff we do. We'll just do it as the movie is running. That way, if you guys want to, you can just sit at home, hit play on the movie, mute the movie, and let us be an alternate commentary for you. But we are keeping with the poll. We like having the people involved. And Chris, since you won this poll with My Cousin Vinny, you get to go first on picking your movie for next month's poll.
Well, this one was tough because, you know me, I'm a little competitive with this thing because I'm really.
We all remember you booing.
So
me
far,
when
I got
Swamp Thing
two.
won, Chris.
I got 2 wins. I was pushing. So I wrote down a lot of movie titles, trying to guess and try to strategize here, but I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go with this one, see what happens. And I think I'm going to go with single white female.
Oh, wow. Oh, Chad had seen the list, so he knew at least somewhat of what
No,
was
I
coming.
didn't. I didn't remember seeing that one on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chad,
It
you
is
wanna
there.
go?
I do have it written, but
Oh,
yeah,
I
I was
believe
like-
you. I'm single white
yeah,
female.
I was like, you know
okay.
what? I'll go with this one.
I'm gonna go with the Ladybugs or Ladybugs, starring Rodney Dangerfield and the child actor Jonathan Brandis.
The late Jonathan Brandis. Wish he was still around. So good.
All right, I'm going for one which now I'm thinking I'm not going to be either one of y'all's choices, but I want to go with something that I definitely think will be interesting to talk about. I think the more I watch it, the more it's becoming my favorite entry from this director. And I'm going with Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem.
That's a good
good
choice out
choice.
of his
And honestly, I
filmography.
haven't really watched that movie much, so it'd be nice to go back and revisit that one.
I mean, and obviously, if it does win, I'll tell about the first time I saw it because I saw it in theaters. How it just stuck with me for days on end after the movie was over. I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Wow.
There you go.
So there's our choices. This is going to be interesting.
As
Interesting.
usual, we have a diverse list.
Horror, thriller, and a comedy. Oh man.
Single white female, Ladybugs, and the Lords of Salem. Make your
Which
choice.
one are you guys voting for? Are you Team Lords of Salem? Are you Team Single White Female? Or are you Team Ladybugs? And hashtag that. And also vote when that poll goes up.
And look, wow.
Hashtag chomp those beavers.
And Chad, if Ladybugs wins, we will have to talk about good old Lindsey Graham and his Ladybugs during the episode.
Oh God, no.
All right, I think that's gonna wrap us up for this month, guys.
Oh, we got our ratings, guys.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goodness gracious, I forgot to do the yes. Let's rate My Cousin Vinny. That is on me.
So Josh, you go first, man.
First time, I think I'm going with 4 out of 5 automotive experts on this one.
I'm surprised. I thought for sure this one would probably be a 5 out. Well, for me, it's 5 out of 5. So
okay, and maybe if I watch it more, it's hard for me to give a 5-star on my very first watch. So I just that's hard to do.
Yeah,
maybe
this one's definitely a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's so smart, and if you pay attention to the dialogue. And just and also what they do, the details are there and everything adds up, and it's easy to hear it, and it's easy to spot it as well. So everything comes to a great conclusion. You're going to keep laughing. It's not your typical court case procedural movie by any means, but it'll keep you engaged. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I can't argue that. Like I say, I think it's just once I watch this a couple more times, it'll climb. It's hard for me to give a 5 on the first viewing, especially a first viewing where I'm also taking notes. So
yeah. But I'm glad you got to see this one too, Josh, for the first time seeing this movie. It sounds like it was one that you just absolutely enjoyed.
It was a blast. This was a blast to do. As much as I didn't see it beating up the rest of me and Chad's choices the way it did, it was still a blast to cover this movie.
Well, at least it was one you end up liking. That's the good thing there.
Yeah. You're right, because I won with Swamp Thing last month, and it's one that I don't think any of us really truly liked. It was like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah, I think it was just good. Not bad.
No. We've definitely seen worse, but not the best thing we've seen either. So this was a bounce back, and that's part of what I'm having fun doing is seeing these movies for the first time. Although these next 3 choices I have at least seen once of all of them. So we're good there.
And so in that case, guys, Chad, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Green Screen Grin.
Nice. And then you guys can find
branding, darling, branding.
He's got it figured out. Hashtag chop those beavers. And then for me, you can find me on Twitter at CBCMonkey, and on Instagram, you can find me at XTopher of Oz. And And then just follow those guys on Letterboxd, and you can find me there too. I
Yeah,
always
you
forget,
can never remember your damn user.
Chad, it's
handle
called
on
branding.
Letterboxd. You're like, it's just follow somebody, you'll find me.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ynfmoviepod. Easiest thing to do is go to linktr.ee/ynfmoviepod. It'll have the Twitter, Instagram, podcast platforms, YouTube channel, Letterboxd, everything you need. Because I think on Letterboxd, I'm technically just Josh G, because I had created it before I did this. So that probably isn't the easiest thing to find. So the easiest way is to use that link tree. Brooke will be on next week, and we'll be talking about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So until then, you guys take care, and I will talk to you next time.